friends, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. It's still January, so technically I am not late, but to start off this new year, now technically I published another video, but it was an old one. Pop culture gal, that's me, I'm pop culture gal. Anyway, so to start off on the right foot, I thought for this video maybe do a little wrap up of 2020. Pop culture wise, in my experience. I'm going to do my 2020 wrap up of what I read in 2020. I thought about doing maybe it for games and TV shows and all of that, but I've mostly spent my year reading because of, well, unemployment and COVID-19. So I was like, let's just maybe focus on the reading because there was an awful lot of reading going on. Actually, before I start, my first goal for 2020, because I started reading more in 2019, and when 2020 started, I felt like I wanted to set a reading goal for me, so I would read more. So I decided on 52 books for the whole year because I figured, 52 weeks, one book a week generally would seem like a good idea. Except I was unemployed in 2020 and for most of 2020, and so I had a lot of time, especially when there's a global pandemic going on and you can't do anything, like even searching for a job is kind of pointless when nobody's working. So I read an awful lot. For 2020, I actually ended up reading 164 books. I had originally planned for 52, but then I upped to 100 when I don't know, I think it was maybe in April or something that I already had read like 50 books, so I was like, let's do more. And I ended up reading 164 books, which is a total of 52,000 pages. So yeah, the shortest book I read was The Boys. Because the second season came out of the TV show that's adapted from the comic books, and I really like the TV show. I think it's really good, and it's a heavily political TV show. Like there's a heavy political messages, but it's well done and it's a bit gory. So if you're not into that kind of thing, don't check it out. But if you're not afraid of a little bit of blood, well, a lot of blood, definitely check it out. It's really good. So I was like, love the TV show, maybe I should, try the comic books. And I really didn't like it. It's not even funny, it's just gross to be gross, and I really didn't like it, and I don't advise reading them. The longest book I read, unsurprisingly, is Priory of the Orange Tree, which is a fucking beast. I read it in French. And it's almost 1,000 pages long in French, so it was bigger, but it was also one of my favorite reads, and I read it in January. I think it was one of the first books I read in 2020, and it got me back in fantasy so fast. Like I read so much fantasy because... So after that, the average book length of 2020 is around 300 pages. Which is good because I read a bunch of graphic novels and comic books and a few mangas also I started reading. So yeah, there was a lot of comic book and graphic novel reading because they're great reads, honestly. Some of them are so... The most popular book I read was, unsurprisingly, The Hunger Games, because I reread The Hunger Games. I had read it already, like, please don't judge me. But since I was stuck at home, I went through my bookshelves and decided to reread all the Hunger Games, and I forgot how good the books were. They're so good. So I reread the Hunger Games. I also reread Percy Jackson, which was a little treasure. Absolutely love it. My least popular book it's a comic book called Foxboy. I had never heard of it, honestly, but my brother bought it. It's a French comic book, like it's a French superhero, and it happens in a French city called, I think it's in Rennes, in Bretagne. So it was really funny to see the comic book world, the superhero world adapted to France, because it's like, even in the tiny details, he goes grocery shopping, or there's like a plastic bag and it's like a big brand for grocery shopping in France. And it's also, it was a lot of questions about ecology, like he was fighting against people polluting and everything. So it was actually a nice comic book about a superhero. Like, it wasn't amazing, but it was a nice read, and apparently only one person shelved it aside from me. So, but yeah, my average rating for 2020 was 4 star. Actually, it's a bit above 4 star, which is good because it means that in the 160 book I read, a lot of them were good, and I think I had a lot of good reads in 2020, which is great because I enjoyed reading so much, and you do need escapism in situations like that, but I really loved reading. Highest rated on Goodreads was 6 of Pro, which is rated like 4.6. I actually don't know how I rated it. Pretty low, I think, because I didn't like it. I've talked about it in other videos. I didn't like it, and I think I rated it 4 at first, but then I went back on it and lowered it to 3, maybe 2. I don't think I lowered it to 2 because I would, if we could put halves on Goodreads, I would be like a 2.5. But yeah, I didn't really like this book. My first review of the year was actually The Feminine Mystic. This was a book gifted to me by my brother. He gifted to me last year or something like that. He went to London and brought me back a feminist book because he knows my interest. And it was interesting to read, but honestly, when you already read a lot of feminist work and essays and books, you can see it's an old book. It was written in 1963, so it's an old book with old version of feminism that fit more these times than nowadays, and so it feels kind of redundant to read it now. It's not as thorough as it could be, so I wouldn't advise it, maybe for older generations, because it would fit maybe more their views and their experience also in the world, but it's still interesting to see how feminism has evolved and all that. So it was an interesting read. Early in 2020, when I read Priory of the Orange Tree, I went to search because it was the first queer fantasy book I was reading. It was written by a woman, it was powerfully feminist and empowering, and I loved it. So I went online to try and search for more info because I'm a little bit of an obsessive person. I've never read that many diversity, and I think it really got me so back into reading because it was amazing to finally read good books with great diversity, you know, and it was great, and I really enjoyed reading so much diversity. Also, weird thing, I started reading romance in 2020. I used to not like romance book because I felt it was so cliche, and you know, it was kind of boring and it's always the same tropes and nothing changes much. But then I started reading diverse romance, and actually I just don't like straight romance, I believe. So yeah, diverse romance is the way to go. It's like, and these books are not really, there's a little bit of angst, but they're not that angsty, so you just read it and it's all warm and fuzzy and you feel so good. So yeah.